What we'd like to try to do a little bit is to drop down a little bit more into our body. And the rationale for that is that we have so much more information and data that exists within us that we don't necessarily need to turn the thinking reel on for. And just to shift gears slightly to a couple of studies around the values and actions, the other thing I want to highlight and high five those of you who have did the character strengths assessment this week. Many of us did this. I want to highlight a couple of studies that the founder of positive psychology, Martin Seligman, found through his research, which was when we can play from our strengths, when we use our signature strengths more often in our day-to-day lives, our happiness increases, our levels of stress and anxiety decrease, our sense of purpose and autonomy increase. We feel more harmonious with what we're passionate about. And this study, they re-examined the people in this study 6 months later, still had that same sense. So I think a lot of us, and we live in a fix-it society where we're always sort of looking for the weakness and how do I just get a little better here and how do I tweak this over there. So this is slightly radical for a lot of our way of thinking, to play more from our strengths and to try to envision ourselves in difficult situations with more of our natural go-to areas of strength in the forefront of our minds and also in our bodies. So those are really powerful things to sort of set the tone for today. And I don't know how many of you watched the Brené Brown video. If you have access to your reaction button, can I get a thumb for those of you who are able to watch that? Great. So most of us were able to watch that. You know, what really jumped out at me when she talked about disconnection being shame plus fear, and that the real connection comes from that vulnerability to lean into our authenticity. And that's difficult. That's really difficult, especially difficult when we're living in our heads. So all of that stuff kind of ties in to what I'd like to frame for our hour here today. We have an incredible guest. This is a wise soul, a really great friend of mine. Takako and I did a 300-hour training together to become flow educators. She currently lives in Tokyo, is from Japan, but like me, she has a kind of a gypsy spirit. When we met, I was taking a year traveling around the world with my family, and she and I really bonded and connected. She's lived in several years in China and Singapore, traveled all over the world, and currently is the assistant head coach for the Japanese national rock climbing team. And it's an Olympic sport this year. And as we all know, that Olympics are in Tokyo. So, and her team is one of the top 2 or 3 in the world. So there's a heightened pressure, and also from my perspective, there's a heightened pressure. But I think that the Japanese team is in such good hands with Takako. Her ability to kind of hone in on the essence of what makes us human, and the ability to kind of connect at levels that are very profound, to me is one of the things that I always lean into and take from our conversations. In fact, we talked for 2 hours earlier today. I kept her up until 1 in the morning, and it's only 7 a.m. in Tokyo. So Takako, thank you so much for joining us today. And before I get into a conversation with you, which I really want to model, see if we can model what flow might look like within a conversation. And through listening to and playing off of each other and hearing so many of Takako's wonderful stories. But I also want to turn it to Scott and have Scott kind of frame maybe what it is, something that you can be thinking about during this conversation. Also invite you to use the chat box, and we'll save a little time at the end for us to unpack our own strengths and where we all feel we're at.
Great. Thanks, Damon. And again, thank you, Takako, for being here. One of the reflections I had this week as we talked about connection, I teach a course where one of the key insights that we share is how the conversation is the relationship. And so if you think about really powerful relationships that you're in, you probably have really powerful conversations. If you don't have such good relationships, you probably don't have very good conversations. I then started to internalize that in terms of, well, what kind of conversations am I having with myself? And this is kind of more of that head space that Damon and I was talking about a moment ago. But as we start to embed it within our strengths, the question of, am I being those strengths in the way I speak to myself and how I speak to others? And so that's part of the frame for how to look at this. But also, as we sit back and start to observe and listen to the conversation that Takako and Damon's about to have, start to listen for what sort of relationship. I think, Damon, you've kind of set the tone for the type of relationship you two have, but more importantly, also be thinking about, as Takako is speaking and is sharing her experience, listen for the strengths that she conveys in her work, in her conversations with the folks that she coaches, the conversation that she has for herself, because again, this is part of that deeper connection. And so that's kind of the frame that I want to set as we're listening to this, listen for the level of depth and where those connections are with those strengths. And so if you have your list of strengths hand you, just kind of listen for what you hear Takako share in terms of what sort of strength is she tapping into, and how is it conveyed in terms of her words and her actions. And so, Damon, I'm going to turn it back over to you guys and sit back and listen deeply. So again, thank you, Takako.
So Takako, because this is such a profound time and we've gone through so many radical changes, I think it probably makes sense to go back to March when the world really changed. I find that for me, this is a place that I took stock and had to confront a lot of my idiosyncrasies and all the things that how I lived my life. Can you bring us back to what it was like for you in Tokyo in March when COVID really kind of took center stage for all of us?
Thank you, Damon. Good morning, everybody. And I'm really happy and honored to be here today. And thank you, Damon, for such a beautiful introduction, and Scott for being there for me. Yes, as you know, very strange and special time we are living in. And we had a COVID-19 also hit Japan hard, as well as to the other part of the world. In the end of March this year, unexpected things happened. We were putting everything, our sweat and blood and all this concentration, everything towards the Olympic game in August 2020. But it was announced that it had to be postponed until the unknown days. And soon later, Tokyo has been soft lockdown. It was not exactly lockdown forced by the government, but we were encouraged not to go out or meet anybody. And we were not supposed to go outside of Tokyo, so we were sort of stuck at home. And Japanese people are quite obedient, so we follow these rules without being forced. And we experienced a natural disaster many times, and big things hit like tsunami and earthquake hit long time ago. At that time, people were so nice to each other. They line up in the shop and take only what they want, what they need, and leave something behind for someone who is in need. But this time, many people run into the supermarket and tried to buy the toilet papers, a lot of toilet papers, which was a bit shocking for me because we grew up and respected others and shared the resources with everybody. That was the beauty of how we live. And I had a very strange feeling in this special time. Then, of course, because of the soft lockdown, we were stuck at home, and our competition has been all postponed or cancelled, and we were stuck without. We lost the training places and meeting opportunities. I myself find that was the opportunities for me, instead of being anxious about unknown futures, because we cannot foresee any futures. There's no rules, or there's no fact, or there's nothing that we expected, and some answers written in the stone. But I find this was the opportunities to create my own reality, create my own solutions. So I looked around the house and soon found that I have so many books that I haven't read, and I have such a rich amount of time that I was always chasing for. And I had so many things I wanted to do, but I put off because I always thought I didn't have enough time. So I started focusing on what I already have in hand instead of what I don't have, or what I might run out of in an unknown future. That made me change perspective, to be here right now and feeling rich, and to be able to cope with the situation. And when I get this result, or as the learning experiences, I could soon share with my athletes or people around who are also anxious about this situation. And I felt really calm and valuable in this situation.
So that's a unique perspective. It's one of those perspectives that I think most of us wish we could have in the moment. But I think I would have liked to have also had that perspective myself, but I really didn't. My first reaction was what I didn't have and what I had lost, and all I had, business lined up in India and Singapore and all of this, and all of it just is gone. What about your upbringing did sort of set the tone for you to at least have this be your first reaction in what was a catastrophe for most people?
I was I was listening to the song the other day, and it was a beautiful phrase that stuck with me in my ears, and that says, sorry, I'm translating from Japanese to English, but it says, "The world without you is like not having a vacation in summer." So the world without you is not having a school holiday in summer. So that was the phrase that refrained in my ears. And as soon as I hear the song, I was hoping, I was remembering my beautiful experiences that I had with love and long time ago, and not having it right now. But I was so happy that I had that experience of being in love and falling in love, and hoping that my athletes or young people that I know have that kind of impact for experiences in the future sometimes in life. And I was thinking about the other people and hoping that this would happen to them. But also at the same time, maybe this lyrics means that as the world without you is like not having a summer vacation, summer school holiday in summer. Means that world without you means without myself being there. So I am if I am here right now, if I don't have myself available to me, that's the loss. And that's the experience that people cannot have. And I found that this is the most important things that in life, I have to be the other better half of myself. And having myself united and integrated, I will be the best person to me. I will be the best friend to me. I will be the lover to me. And value myself as one first. Then I can create the energy and love and everything and infinitively. And if I have more energy, I can pass it to others. That has to be the beginning, I thought. And this was given to me because of the COVID-19, because I was stuck at home, because I had more time to be kind to myself, because I allow myself to be vulnerable and feeling all the senses inside of me. This happened thanks to the COVID-19 I found.
So, and that ties with what we were just speaking about with this Brene Brown talking about compassion, and that compassion really has to start with kindness for self. And I feel like I really connect with that. And it feels like a story that reminds me of my grandmother said when I was a kid. She said, you want to help the world, start by helping yourself. And I thought of it as kind of selfish as a young person to accumulate things. That's what she meant for helping myself to have a good job and make money and, you know, have a house. And then I can kind of look out and be compassionate to others. But as I got a little older, I realized, as you're saying right now, that really started, that had to be a kindness and a love and a concern and a care inward. And that once that is kindled, once that flame is lit, that there is this brightness and this gift that you can then turn out for others. You know, I know I asked you earlier if it was okay to say this, and I know you're also a cancer survivor, and I'm wondering how that has influenced your mindset and you mentioned COVID being one of these ways of finding this kindness. Did that experience provide for you, other than it being very traumatic, of course, as a way to teach you more about what life means for you?
Yes, yeah, I was with my career. I left Japan in the year of 2000, and until 2017, I was overseas abroad working and learning at the same time. And I came back to Japan in the year of 2017 when sport climbing became part of the Olympic sports. And there was a coaching opportunities for me to come back to Japan. I never thought about coming back to Japan. I thought I was still exploring and working overseas and keep going like as I go, because that excites me. And after coming back to Japan, at the year of 2017, the life wasn't that easy, to be honest. I had a culture shock with my own culture. The working ethics and people's reactions or honesty with the colleagues and at work, or way of Japanese communicating with each other was a bit more soft, not direct, and very, very much of it. So I had to adjust myself to be able to accept it in the culture. And along the way, I had a quite, I was very excited and honored to be part of the team. And it's like my dream job, and I'm there. I'm getting so much in that moment. But at the same time, politically, I didn't have an easy time with people. And so in the end, I was a bit under the stress about the time, about the work. And I have been traveling with work for more than half of my time during the year in a competition. And competition is really like very thrilling time, which is exciting, but also physically it was demanding. And so on my second year, I was traveling a lot, and I was middle of the competition season. A result of the health check came, and I was diagnosed as a cancer. And I didn't think of that. My family has no record of the cancer history and so on. So it was shocked. I was really shocked, and it was like flash in my head. And I have to attend my competitions and work fully there. But at the same time, I have to think about how to deal with this issue with the cancer. I had to undergo the surgery quite quickly to get rid of what I have, and to select, it was a breast cancer, and I had to select many ways of how to treat it. And it was like having a guest in my house. I cannot treat them randomly. I have to be nice to them, but I don't have time, and because I have so much engagement at work. So it was that kind of situation. But I decided to go under surgery, and during that time I was hospitalized. I was really having a good time. I chose the really good hospital with a good care, and I decided to go there. It was a one person's room, so it was quite expensive. But I decided this opportunity is for me to go on a holiday in a very remote place, and I can take time, no disturbance, and I pay quite a lot of money, but everything is given to me, the meal and the care and everything. And I had the best doctor I decided to trust. So I had no worries that I have to think of, because they are professional, I trust. And because I give the trust gave back to me. And I said to the doctor, okay, I have understood everything, and I know you know the best. So it's up to you. When I am in anesthesia and on a bed of this surgery, if you find something, please take everything out. And I trust you completely, and please do so. And the doctor was, I feel that doctor sparked, because with the confidence also, and also the mutual trust. And I had the best surgery ever. And the nurses and everyone, my family and relatives, came to visit me. And I was just surrounded by love. And that is because I decided to stop and being shut down with all the things, work and stress and the time and everything. And I decided to trust completely 100% and being there for myself. And that was the actually best experience or moment that I have. And along the way in my life, I find that I have a little death sometimes. And having a cancer, undergo the surgery was one of those experiences that I had to start with a clean slate. Okay, I get rid of all the bad things, and I had that moment of the little death, so I can start again with a fresh body and fresh mind and fresh spirit. And because I decided to trust, I got back all the loves, and I can start fresh new days.
I mean, that is just a powerful story and powerful experience. And I know for me personally, I'm just in awe that you can frame it that way and see this as an experience that gave you a clean slate and that you felt love and trust in this time. It's a very powerful mindset. And it's just inspiring to hear. I, I, I mean, one of your headline now is you are working with some of the best athletes in the world, and you have found this way of, it seems to me, bringing the essence of you into your career as a coach for these top level athletes. Can you talk a little bit about your philosophy with how you coach? And then, and maybe within that, this is the 30-day flow challenge. Flow is something you know intimately. How do you see flow showing up for your athletes? How do you see flow showing up for yourself?
Yes. So I work for Japan national climbing team at the moment, and our athletes comes from all over Japan. Our level of the athletes is very high in the world, and going through the national selection competition and becoming part of the national team is really high. There's only one chance competition nationally, and a selected athlete will be quite limited. And those are the people who can compete in World Cups and World Championship and fight against the world athletes. And fortunately, we have qualified athletes for the Tokyo 2020 Games. And my work is with all these selected athletes. I am very lucky to be in this position. They are from everywhere in Japan. Japan seems to be quite small, but quite scattered. And some athletes are trained over there with another coach, and some people are stay in Tokyo without the coach and training for themselves. But climbing is such a sport that you can develop with yourself and with others through the communication. And those are the people comes up to the national team. I am looking after this team as a team manager and a coach and doing everything. My job is to, because they train in different places with different coaches, I believe those athletes already have what they need, already what they train for. So in each international competition, my job is to get rid of all the clutters to reach and get their result that they're supposed to be. because they already have the ability, they already have the skill, they already have everything in their hands and the body. But sometimes athletes can be stuck with some thought about unnecessary thought for them not to be able to explode in that competition. So my job is to make sure nothing gets in their way so that they can be the best of the best in that stage. So my job is not giving a technical instruction or giving instruction on the go, but making sure everything is set for them. And to do that, I observe them, the conditions and also the status, and I talk to them about how they came to that moment, so that as and when, mostly I don't step in, but as and when I think it's necessary, I step in to adjust the conditions for them to be able to explode in that stage. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. And you said a word to me earlier, and it's something that maybe we can explore. I'll probably pronounce it wrong, but I think it was kagugo. And this concept of, I think you said in English, it's preparedness and determination, kind of readiness, but how you described it for how you see it and how your athletes see it really struck me. Can you explain a little bit about what that is and what it means?
Yes, we were told that a monster lives in the Olympics. So this was the word. Was the word from people who were in the past Olympics, and this means that even if you prepared everything, and if your level is top of the top, and if you are told that if you are expected to get the medal in the Olympics, but there is always something living in the Olympics. That means something might go wrong, or something might happen. Something good might happen, but something unexpected might happen. So the readiness is the most important things for the Olympics. No matter what situation comes, what circumstances come, just be ready for any situations. And kakugo, Kakugo, kakugo is the word described as a determination, readiness, and prepare, like the state of being prepared completely. And in this days, and on this stage, your energy are all concentrating in your center of your body, and you're not scared. You are in that zone, you are in that moment, and ready to be in any situations. It came also from the old time in Japan, like samurai period of time. At that time, the fight was with the sword, and you were prepared to death, life or death situations, and you had to have that kind of calmness and in readiness for anything to come. And in order to make this kakugo, readiness, I think this will connect with the flow state. In order to be that status, you have to have the daily work, routine work to create or engineer that state. So you have this set of routine or set of practices every day, from the small to the big, to create that, it differs from people to person, because every person is different. So to find that daily practices and routine to make the flow, you have to be observant, you have to be conscious about your actions, you have to notice the unconscious actions and daily practices that you are doing unconsciously. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The repetition of this becomes your to build in that situation, and the accumulation of it result becomes the result of the thickness of kakugo. So you will be prepared, you will be calm and ready to any situations. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for my English.
No, please. Yeah. You should hear us try to speak Japanese. It would be like one word and then we would be done. So it sounds a lot like what we're doing here this month. We are noticing on a day-to-day basis what we are doing, what triggers us, what gives us fire, what old patterns that we may be doing, but also checking in with gratitude and sharing small moments of what we call them is the wall of wins, and expressing our life story in these small moments on a day-to-day basis, this kind of brick by brick, drip by drip. And it sounds like that as you are preparing these world-class athletes, and just as a national philosophy, sounds very similar to how we've constructed what we're doing here. And obviously you mentioned the samurai, and I know you're really connected to the practice of Budo. And one other thing that we've done a lot here is hone in on breath. So we have about 20 minutes left, and I'd like to leave 10 minutes for the group to share a bit about their own values and the character strengths. But I'd love to hear a little bit about how you describe breath practice, because I think for a lot of us, it's very technical and prescriptive. You know, even the way we do it here, where you're breathing in 5, you're breathing out 5. You're breathing in 80% and then 20% more, and then you're breathing out. You're breathing in a count of 1, and then you're breathing out a count of 2 after. So these are ways of breathing that affect our nervous system. But I like just the addition of how you describe breath practice. And with that, as Takako is explaining that, think a little bit about what's really popped out during this conversation, and maybe also what through your own exploration with your own values and action, these character strengths, we can go into some small breakout rooms at the end and just discuss how have you potentially been playing from your strengths, and what have you noticed about day-to-day life with this idea of character strengths now being inserted in. So Takako, tell us a little bit about this breath practice that it seems like it began during samurai times. I think that this has just got so much power to it.
Yes. Well, that's I might jump here and there, but I'm so happy. First of all, I'm so happy that you mentioned about the gratitude, because gratitude is such a powerful thing, and it's also the center of our culture as well. And connecting to kakugo, the readiness, and when you are calm and ready, determined, and with your action to whether life or death situation or some big event or anything, at that moment, if you can sparkle the gratitude that comes from inside of your body, that protects you, that covers you with the particle, like a golden ball that is protecting you. And that is the moment in flow, I find. And with that, gratitude becomes a joy, and joy becomes this golden ball that is protecting you from any situation, fear, vulnerability, on anything. And I think I am aware of the time, so before going, maybe I might combine everything together. But does anybody know the word thank you in Japanese? Damon?
No.
Or anyone? Yeah, it's arigato is Japanese in thank you in Japanese. And we believe there is a spirit in a language in Japan. We were born in languages, and languages blesses us. That is a very ancient way of thinking. Our culture is not written or logic in a history book, but it has all passed orally from the ancestor to here. And arigato has consists with 5 sound, and each sound has a power to it, spirit or soul in it, and in a way ghost. And ari means what we have or the situation that we have. And gatai, gato and gatai means it's impossible to exist. So arigatai means that situation or things or anything, it's impossible that is happening. That is the meaning of being thankful or thank you, being thankful. Does it make sense? So arigatai means that situation was impossible to happen otherwise. That is the meaning of thank you. And if we find every situation, every moment, or existence of ourselves, or existence of the weather right now, or the luxury that we have living in a house with the roof and the light and the water running from the tap and everything, we are in that state of mind, being prepared for anything, and no fear, nothing. We are in flow. We are best version of ourselves, and being able to deliver anything without fear. We always feel the shameful feeling or fear of losing face or fear of everything in our life. But if we could center ourselves with the breathing created from the center of our body, actually in Japan, through Buddha, our energy creates from here, about 3 centimeters below the navel. This point is called tanden, and all the energy comes from here. We breathe not from the lung, but through the navel, below the navel, this point. This is called tanden. That means the field in center of the body. We create the energy from here, big and small. We control this energy, and we use this abdominal strength, but our hands and feet are all relaxed. And all the energy is here, and we are in control of the energy, and so that we can control our strength. When we want to explode, we can explode from here. And when we want to concentrate, we can all bring the energy back and controlling here and infinitively. And we are the energy being. And through this control of the energy, we can connect with the universe. And we can utilize this energy to be able to live as one, and also to be able to deliver what we are born to do, through the strengths that we have as an individual. I think that is important. And lastly, I think it's important to know ourselves and who we are, what our strengths are, and not focusing on weakness, because this can always be improved. And like I find everything that I have during the COVID-19, I was focusing on what I have, but not what I don't have, or what I might lose in the future, like toilet paper. But focusing on what our strengths are, and knowing myself, who am I, what experiences I had or I learned along the way that changed into my strengths, and cope with whatever comes up. And I'm open to surprises and miracles in life. That's the beauty of.
That's beautiful, Takako. And a couple of things that I think really jump out. You know, one thing we discuss here and teach is the ability to shift state. So if I'm in one state, through breath, through movement, through connection, through nature, gratitude, we quite literally can go from one feeling of fear, for example, to a feeling of feeling empowered, feeling calm. And so I really connect with this idea of coming into your center and staying loose from the limbs. That is a really powerful visual. And as we said at the beginning, playing from your strengths. And one of the reasons we did this and introduced the values in action this week was for people to have an understanding of what areas are more natural for them in terms of being strong. And you said it very clearly. You could focus on the things that you don't have, the things that may or may not happen in the future, but instead you have the mental discipline to stay focused on what you do have and where you are strong, and those values. And the way I see it in my mind, it's like a compass. It's like, I know true north. So no matter what happens, if I get knocked down and I get back up and I'm dizzy, I can pull my compass out and I can calibrate it back towards where my values lie. And then at least I know the next best step to move in that direction. So with that, I'd love to open it up to the group. Number one, if anyone has any questions for Takako or comments, but then also if anyone would be interested in sort of sharing a little bit about where they feel their strengths lie, how have you calibrated this week around what you discovered through the character strengths assessment, and even just so far within the course, where are you at? And sometimes it can be really powerful to start to speak your story, and it can help to consolidate and make some sense of it.
I was kind of curious as far as looking back, and first of all, thank you for joining us today. It's quite a pleasure to listen to you and kind of enjoys that in the inner aspect that you're sharing with us. And I was kind of curious going back to, with the cancer and how you indicated as far as you have this death and you start off clean and go forward. And I'm kind of curious as far as kind of making that break from the old to the new. What are some of the things that you do? What are you looking at? What are you feeling to make that bridge to the new and leave some of the past behind?
Thank you for being here today, and I'm really happy to have your question. Before that hospitalization, I decided my work was overwhelmed. So many things undone every day. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. So I was quite anxious and also stressed every day before I go to bed. And that was the finding that I had. Because in life, there are so many things that can be undone and for the next day. And especially for work, I was really into work. So I wanted to make sure everything is in order and everything can be done. So I stayed up late and blah, blah, blah. But at some point, I decided, okay, I think going into the sleep with this state is really bad for the health. So I decided to make a list of things that I can definitely be able to tick before I go to bed. So it's like cleaning everything and just go to sleep without worrying anything. And the list goes like this. Were you kind to others? Yes, because I tried to live like that. And were you kind to yourself as well? I tried to check. And were you honest to others? And I check. Were you honest to yourself as well? Yes. And this goes on like very simple and easy one that I can definitely check by the end of that day. And another check is, I feel grateful that I have a roof above my head. Yes, check. And I feel happy that I can go to sleep feeling safe. I'm not in war. I'm not in natural disaster. And check. And I am happy, healthy, being here to be able to move as I can. Check. And saying good night and sleep. And these are the super simple things that I can 100% tick off before I go to bed. And that is the trick to be able to start the next day fresh. And if I can accumulate this every day, this was the change for me to start fresh every day. And after coming back from the hospital with that experience, I had an amazing way of waking up one day. During that week, I took off all my work and I had no agenda in my days for the next couple of days. One day, and usually I'm not very good with waking up early or waking up fresh in the morning. But that morning, the light came in and I was half asleep. And I was so excited and as if I was invited to the festival. And the festival was inviting me. And that was the exciting to wake up. I had that kind of feeling, not only my imagination, but with feeling warm with the light and excitement coming from the center of my body with the joy. That is the feeling that I want to have every day. And with that image, I want to wake up every day too. And that is something I am aiming every day. And the day starts the day before I go to bed.
Mm.
Arigato.
はい、どういたしまして。
Would anyone else like to share? I heard it reminds me, Takako, I heard a really interesting commentary from a neuroscientist who mentioned that what you're doing now is a gift for your future self. And this idea, what resonates with me about your stories is when you go to the festival, as you say, and when you complete the tasks at night clean, and you're able to come back 100% in your body, wake up with this new day, new life. The more you do this, the more consistency you build, your brain begins to develop a prediction that this is how it sees the world. This perspective becomes reality. And I think for us, often we think we get the reward, we sign the deal, we win the gold medal, we have the result, and then I feel full. But it sounds to me what you're saying, and I think neuroscience backs this up, and positive psychology does as well, that it starts with feeling full. It starts with just being. And from being, then doing is something we can trust. The imagery around your core with your loose limbs is how I see that. When we have that essence in line, then we don't have to guard against, will I say the right thing? How will I show up? Will I be honest? Will I be true to myself? No, we've already cultivated that and done that work on a day-to-day basis. And it's just a beautiful living example to hear all of that from you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think I recently watched the talk of Dr. Zach Bush. And if anybody saw that clip from somewhere, he talked about what if we can transform before we die. And he was a doctor in an emergency room. One day there was strange things happened and 3 people died. But on the same night, 3 people came back with the treatment. And 3 people are very different, has a very different background and race and all the medical history and everything. But the common thing that they said was, why did you bring me back? Because when they physically died and the spirit went to the next world or somewhere that they saw, it was like light, and it was, everything was floating and bright in a very bright white light, and they were feeling completely accepted for the first time in their life, and they wanted to be there. They didn't want to leave that place, but because they physically brought them back in life, they had to live with our body and what we were given as an identity or circumstances or situation like that. And the moral of the story is that what if we can feel that way before we actually die, like in everyday life or every moment in life? We have nothing to lose. We are completely accepted with who we are, and no fear, nothing to be afraid of, no shame or no vulnerability, nothing. It just, we have nothing to lose as long as we are centered with what we are born in nature as what we already have, and nature that as an energy. And it doesn't matter people think or what situation we are in, what difficulty we are here. But we are the energy being, human being that is completely accepted. But to be able to be accepted, you have to accept yourself first. You are who you are. And this is what I am. And I am happy with who I am. And I feel incredibly grateful for who I am and what we are, what I am. And I can do anything from here because I have no difficulty around. And this is related to flow. When I feel flow in activities and in life, I am in that state of mind. I am feeling lifted, and I am in that moment of just no internal critics in my head, no fear, just give, and in that moment, and I'm forgetting everything, but just my body is floating, and I don't feel the time, I don't feel fear, I don't feel anything in that split moment of time. And in the end, out of the tunnel, it's like a nirvana, like I cannot stop laughing, I feel so good, I feel a sense of accomplishment, and then it's addictive. And these are the feeling I want to aim and reach every day, no matter what.
You know, as you speak, Takako, it just reminds me, it's like you're just surrendering to who you really are in that moment.
Exactly.
You know, and I remember a number of years ago, I was really struggling, and you know, I missed my son's first soccer game, and I missed his first goal. And as a parent, that's not what I wanted to be doing. And I remember asking myself a question, which was, if I could surrender to my integrity or that which makes me whole, how would I be different? And ended up leaving my job and starting a new company so I could be home more. And so as you speak, it's this really idea of just surrendering to who you are, again, without judgment. And if I can be mindful of those strengths that I can lean on, because this is who I am, then my question is am I behaving in ways that are aligned to that? And that to me is the secret sauce, because again, most conflict that exists internally for us is when our values are not aligned with our actions. And we know that intuitively. And so that's the work, I think, of any good human being. So I really appreciate you sharing it that way. And I'm going to go on mute because my puppy's about ready to lose it.
Thank you, Scott. I can't agree more. Just 100%, 200% is exactly what I, that's,
Thank you.
I did also hear the Zach Bush interview. He's a medical doctor. He's a triple board certified doctor in the US. So this is not somebody who's woo-woo or healy-feely. This is a very renowned medical professional that was sharing that story that Takako was saying. And I guess I'll also add full circle back to Brene Brown in the video that we watched at the beginning of this week, where she mentioned who are the people who feel the deepest sense of connection. And she said that they are wholehearted people. And the definition that she used underneath it was that they were willing to let go of what they thought they should be to be real. And I think that speaks to the depth of really at the essence of what you have been speaking about here tonight. Connection, we are social animals. Neurobiologically, we need each other. Our nervous systems speak with one another. And our emotions, Ethan is on this call, I learned this from Ethan, leak out no matter what we're saying, what we're projecting, how we're emitting is felt. And that feeling, if we are honestly going to find a deeper connection with self and then be able to have these connections with family, with coworkers, even with the planet, we need to be able to kind of drop the story of who we think we should be and become more connected to the essence of who we are. I read an interesting study that when people go from their house in a box to in a train to work or a car to work, and that's another box, and then they come back to home and they go back and forth and back and forth, they literally lose the wiring for connecting to nature, to the felt world, to the alive world that we're all part of. So for us to have this connection, we need not only to begin with this self-kindness, self-exploration, but to kind of open ourselves up and with courage. And some of these values that we're speaking about here, bravery is a low one on my list. And it's the one that I'm focusing on, kind of trying to spend more time moving up and bringing into my day-to-day awareness. And bravery looks different in lots of different ways. You know, bravery looks like telling someone you love them. Bravery looks like telling yourself you love them, you love yourself. And so I think, you know, finding ways throughout the rest of this week, and of course throughout the rest of this course and on, to begin to explore and find that center, that place of truth that Takako is speaking about, with a sense of curiosity and a sense of gratitude. You know, we're all in the same boat. We all are connected, and no one has all the answers. And I think from that place of humility is a really powerful place to explore more about what's within us and how we can sort of project our more authentic self out into the world, as you do so beautifully and poetically, Takako. So thank you so much for getting up early. Happy belated birthday. It was Takako's birthday yesterday. I assumed for sure you would go out for a big sushi meal, but you told me you went out for Italian, which I love that. And anything final for our group before we sign off for the night, Takako? Would you like to share any last thing for us?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me this morning and night for you. And I'm not very good with, but thank you for being there, Damon, and inviting me this precious time. Life is fun, and I try to be always open to surprises and without the judgment. And I'm not very good with reading books or learning the knowledge from school, but I am an experiential learner. I learn on the street, I learn along the way. I like exploring new possibilities and create new values, because I don't want to play by any other rules. And I think we are not being selfish, but taking care of ourselves is most important things. Like when you are on the plane, there's instruction videos that when something happens, first of all, if you are with the children, put your masks first, and then give the masks to children or the younger one. And because if you cannot survive, you cannot help others. So you have to be really kind and nice to yourself first, and then try to create more energy to give others and give the first aid to you, and let's create a beautiful world together. This is still a beautiful place.
Well said, Takako. And thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. And it's been a pleasure to just have your presence. And it's been an absolute inspiration to see all the shout outs this week on the wall. It's every day seeing something new, lifting one another up, seeing one another, I think is such a beautiful and powerful thing. I see all of you, and I feel seen as well, and that's a really beautiful feeling. So let's keep the spirit going and keep the connection going. Enjoy your day, Takako, and for the rest of you, we'll see you on the wall, and looking forward to several more weeks together. So have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Takako.
ありがとう。Good night.
ありがとう。
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 ありがとうございます。
Thank you, Takako. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Night.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yes.
Yeah.